researched, and I know the minig of batei dinim is the machayev for the demei of the tikkun. If there is a repair, the mazik has to pay the repair. That's the minig, that's taka the minig hamadina as well. You pay the repair cost. It's not clear if the mazik has to be responsible to actually be involved in getting it repaired. The shach in the second Shin Pei Zayin says he has to repair it. Earlier he's not so sure, so that's somewhat unclear. But it seems that the minig of the bezdin, the minig hamadina lahavdil, is that you pay repair costs. Now, if the item was totaled, there's no longer any repairs possible, then of course you pay the depreciation, the meipchas. Now let's apply this very specifically. So we'll start with an easy shayla. Let's say someone totaled the other person's car, complete damage, it's not repairable. So here, there's no demei tikkun, so obviously you have to pay the depreciation, the damage that the person sustained. But here we do have a little of a kula for the mazik. Because the maisa, the totaled car, the wrecked car has some value. It could be sold as parts, as metal, whatever it is. So a car that's totally dysfunctional has some value. That would be like the Torah's nevela, v'ameis yeloi. So the nizik has a headache, true, he has to take this car, then that's now dysfunctional, and he has to sell it. But that money is his. The mazik says, okay, how much do you get for the wrecked car? I'll make the difference. That is basically applying the Torah from a nevela to a wrecked car. The big question is, how do you assess the depreciation? He bought the car as new, whatever he paid. He used it for 2 years. How much is the car worth? Now it's worth nothing, true. But how much is it worth when it was damaged? He paid a lot of money, but cars, every year goes by, a used car is worth a lot less. So we have to be very clear that there is a change, a pretty significant change from a new car to a used car. But it makes it a little easier to know that today there's a big business called used cars. Used cars has certain price ranging. So you would follow that price ranging. A used car, you use 1 year, 2 years, whatever the rules are, but that would give us some insight how much a used car is worth. But one thing I want to make a point, the nizik has a very emotional taina. I bought a car, okay, and I spent a lot of money. I used it a year, and all of a sudden it's a used car, and it goes down significantly in value. And you're going to pay me the price of a used car. Shkoyach, what am I going to do with that? Let's say it's a big difference in price. So I can't take the money you give me and I buy a new car because it's a big difference in price. I'll take the metal. The metal doesn't help much. And that's one of the many times that the innocent nizik loses. Because he had a car and he was driving very comfortably with the car. Now he has a third of the price, half of the price. He can't buy a new car with that price. He was very happy with the old car. But now you give him half the price because it's used and he can't afford to buy a new one. But that's the din, because you pay for the damage, the depreciation. And this is really a big yesod to any used item. That's when the nizik feels the loss. He doesn't have enough money to buy a new item, and he can't use the old item, but that's the halacha. You pay demei hezek. The rivash in a tshuva in Taf Kuvav, one of the Gedali Rishonim, where someone damaged someone else's roof. So they were thinking to fix the roof. It's like, very much not true. You damaged the roof, and in those days, the roofs didn't last forever like hopefully today should. And let's say it lasted 10 years. And this roof already existed for 9 years. So there's only 1 year of use left. So Zok the Rivash, you can't put a new roof on, because the roof had only 1/10 of its value. And the Rivash says for Dava Pashit, when you destroy someone's house or break someone's keli, you don't require him to replace it with a new one. You determine how much the old one was worth. If it was used 5 years and only has a 10-year life expectancy, so it's worth half the value. So you have to figure out how much the used item is worth and pay accordingly. Now again, this is a tremendous burden on the nizik. He had a house with a roof on his head. The mazik destroyed the roof on his head. Now he has no roof. And you give him 1/10 of the cost for a new roof. What's he going to do? He's going to build 1/10 of a roof? He can't afford to pay for a new roof. But he's only given money for 1/10 of it, because that's the fair price. So this is a point that I want to make mention now, and hopefully you should always remember this. Even if the mazik pays the right price, the nizik is suffering. He's being paid a small amount of the money, and that's why it's not just an issue of paying and goodbye. In fact, the Rambam and many poskim say this, even after you pay the damages, you the mazik pay the damages, you have to ask a mechila. Because being damaged involves a lot of agmas nefesh. First of all, the fact that you got damaged, and assessing it, and waiting till it's paid. And even if he pays promptly, lemaisa, the nizik loses. He started out with the car, and now he has half the value of a new car. And he can't afford to buy a new one. And that's why we say that it's the first klal in Hilchas Nezikin is be careful, don't damage. I know it's easy said than done, but Taisis and Chav Zayin and Beis, Yoise Yeshlei Lishma Shalai Yazik Mishalai Yuzak. A person has to be a defensive driver, but a careful driver. Be careful, don't do damage. Of course, it's sometimes you can't, it's unavoidable, but a person has to be careful. Paying is not everything. The Rishonim have a list of possible Isurei Torah that a mazik is over on. Some say it's the Issa of V'afterecha Kamoicha, Loisaynu Ishas Hamisay, Ainoa, pain. The Rabbeinu Yoina says an Issa Loisigzo. Some say it's the opposite of Shavas Haveda. There's the Kilas Yankiv and Bava Kama Siman discusses the Isurei Torah involved in being mazik. Of course, that's mazik b'mezid. But the point is, the step one is be careful not to do hezek. If a person did a hezek, he pays, but the nizik often is the shuldig loser. He's the innocent victim that ends up losing. Now, lamaisa, this is why we have to say that we have to make a fair estimate. It's emotional. The nizik said, what am I going to do with half the money for a roof, or 1/10 of the money for the roof? But that's the way the Torah did it. I'll give you another mashal. Someone dirtied someone's tie or suit, and Lamaisa could be cleaned. Oh, so the Mei Tikkunus pay for the cleaners. Wonderful. But Lamaisa, the stain was not completely removed. There's still some type of residue. And now the tie, instead of being worth whatever it was, is a fraction of the cost. So now the Paiskim say, the Mei Tikkun is not enough. The Mei Tikkun is not lakula, because if the Mei Tikkun doesn't do the trick, there's also depreciation. So a person would have to pay both. Now here is another issue. The nizik says, okay, you're going to pay me the cleaners and the difference of the tie before I knew you and after I knew you, because now it's damaged. But I don't want to wear this tie. There's still a stain. But you say it's valuable? Good. You keep the tie and pay me the full price. That he can't do. The nizik has to keep the tie. If he doesn't like it, so maybe let him sell it. But if the bezin says that this is worth still X amount of dollars, nizik has to keep the tie. I must mention there's a sheet of the Nesivas HaMishpat in the beginning of Kuf Mem Ches, which has tremendous impact on Hilchas Nizokin, especially of used items. The Nesivas has a yesod that an item that cannot be sold in the marketplace, has no marketable value, then a person that damages that doesn't have to pay. Because the value of an item is determined by how much you could sell it in the marketplace. He bases on a Gemara in Ksubas, Daf Lamed, the famous sugi where someone stuck food down someone else's throat. So Gemara says that it's the food now, where it is down, what's stuck didn't yet go down, has no value. So for the Nesivas, it has value for the person that's about to swallow it. It's a nice piece of food. So the Nesivas, but that food you can't sell, it has no value. The Nesivas Yisayid is the value is determined by if it can be sold in the marketplace. According to that, a used suit, a used shirt especially, the cleaners lost your used shirt. Who's going to buy your used shirt? So it has come out no value, like the Nesivas. But most Paiskim, and I mean most Paiskim, besides the Nesivas, point to a Rashi in Gittin Daf Nun Gimel, where someone damages a carbon of someone else's, even though it has no market value, not allowed to sell it, there's still a chiyuv to pay. And that's why the Gedolei HaPoskim, after the Nesivos, if you want to see the nice discussion, the Kilos Yankim and Simon Lambates and Baba Kama, the Mincha Shleim B'Tanyana, Kuf Lamed Hey, and many others, Chazon Ish Vav Gimel also, they say it's not how much it's worth in the world, the shuk. It's how much it's worth to the owner. My used shirt is worth like a used shirt. I still wear it. My used car is worth to me. So there has to be that it's valuable to the nizik. Now, a used car has a marketable value. That's even easier. But the fact that I can't sell my used shirt does not mean a used shirt has no value. So therefore, when the cleaners lose your shirt, how much can you charge him? You can't charge him for a new shirt. That's not fair because you wore it. So you have to figure out how much the used shirt is worth, and that's the depreciation that you have to pay. How do you evaluate how much a used shirt, a used item is worth? So the simplest way is how much it's sold for. If it's marketable, a used car has a used home, of course, these things have a certain value. If not, it's a little tricky because you have to figure out how much you would pay to rebuy your used shirt or your used item. You can't say how much would someone off the street buy my used shirt because he wouldn't look at you. You're not buying your used shirt. How much you would pay for, if let's say someone found it and it was after years and he owns your shirt, how much you would pay for that used shirt? And some poskim say, when applicable, a very simple method is the item that was damaged had new cost $1,000. It's supposed to last for 10 years. So every year is $100. So after 5 years, it's worth $500. The only catch to this is that if you buy a suit, and let's say the suit costs $300, and a suit lasts, let's say, for 3 years, so the first year of use is more than the last year, because the first year has the new look to it, it's a better suit. So a person has to be intellectually honest, and of course assess how much it's worth to the nizik, even if it's not marketable, and pay the difference. But here again, you see how a person, nizik, is often a loser because his item is worth to him. He doesn't care if it's new or old. He likes it. Now, all of a sudden, it's reduced in value. Question, an important question. Assume that a person damaged something, and they assessed the Demei Tikkun at, let's say, $500. Till they got around to it, COVID hit, and everything is affected by COVID. And now the price of repair went down. It's even cheaper, or went up. Bekitza, originally, b'shas, the damage was done, the tikkun was $500. Now, when he actually wants to pay money, either the repair is only $200, or it's more, it's $800. What do you pay? B'shas the hezik, or now when you will have to repair it? So this is a perfect nafkamina, because if you're paying Demei Hezik, and this was the Demei Hezik, so then the Chiv is Chal, that's it. But if you hold that you're in charge of Tikkun, so now $500 does not do the trick. I need $800. If it's only $200, it went down. I have a bargain. I pay less. And Taka the Chazon Ish says that. Chazon Ish says, according to the Shach, that your job is Tikkun, then forget about what it was. Now, you pay the Tikkun. The Chumra or the Kula, more or less, your job is Tikkun. However, if you hold it's Hezik, so Hezik was determined b'shas Hezik. And what happened now is of no importance. The truth is that it's very possible that the Chalois Chiyuv is when you have to pay. Even if it's the Mei Tikkun, what is the Hezik? B'shas, you shatzed it up, even like the Shach. But there's no doubt about it, if you hold its depreciation, then the Chiyuv is Chal, B'shas Hezik, and what changed is of no value. What's more common, the value of the item changed. When he damaged it, it was worth $500. Now, the item, because of COVID, everything dropped and it's worth less. Can we pay less because now it's worth less? So here again, it depends on our original shaila, but the Poskim do say, and that's the Machne Ephraim and the Zikin Aleph, His approach is, you pay for the damage. How much was the item worth when you damaged it? $500? That's the price you have to pay. What it's worth now is the material. When you damaged, there was a chiyuv of hezek. You have to pay the value what is worth b'shas the hezek. And the truth is, this is very logical, because once someone is chayiv to pay b'shas when he damaged it, that's his hezek. Why should the value of the item change if he was chayiv to pay $500, for example? And I'll prove it. Imagine you dent make a small dent in someone's car. And you're very fair, I'll pay you $200, don't worry, call me next week, we'll talk about it. He calls you next week and says, by the way, since I know you, I'm having trouble, because right after you dented my car, someone else totaled my car. So you say, oh really? Oh, I'm happy to hear that. I'm not paying for the small dent, because the small dent, it was destroyed by the big totaling, right? So goodbye, and you hang up on him. So he calls back all excited, what do you mean? So who's right? Of course he's right. You did a small dent damage, there was a chalais chiyuv to pay, and the fact that the car got totaled later is not your business, right? Why is that? Pashit. Because when you damage the car, you have a chiyuv to pay. The car that was totaled with the dent, that's not your business. The chiyuv is chal b'shas the ma'isa hezik, not b'shas tashlumin. I'll give you another mush, okay? Sometimes, and this is a little trickier, the mazik and the nizik are very fair and they're working together, and they assess the damage as the meitikun, the damage, often it's the same, but they assess the damage, the meitikun as $500. So the nizik says, okay, so pay up. So he says, by the way, I want to tell you, be fair, I'm not fixing the item. I can't afford it. Now I'm having difficulty in business. I'd rather invest the money in business and get myself back on my feet. I'm not going to do much, but whatever it is, I'm using the meitikun not to fix the car. I'll drive with the dent. I want to invest it in business. So Zok the Chazinish in Siman Vav, Bavakama, Sif Cotton Gimel, this would be another nafkamina. Because if you hold that the payment is only to be misakin the damage, so the mazik say, what do you mean? I'm not paying you to invest in your business. But Zok the Chazinish, no. The hezek is the paying for the hezek. The dmei tikkun is one way of assessing how much damage there was. But that's my prerogative either to fix it or charge you the hezek. So it seems, and that's what the poskim seem to accept, if the nizik decides to take the money, sometimes you're talking about more than $500 on a dent, talking about a big hezek, and someone does a big hezek to someone's car or someone's house, and the nizik is desperate and needs the money. So pay me the dmei hezek, but I'm not fixing it, and it's legal. The only question is if the mazik was a repairman, or he works in the body shop, and he could fix the car at no cost to himself. Then it's hard to mechayiv him to pay when he could repair the damage as it was. No, because then you could say, I'm not paying a penny, and I'm going to have to give you the money for no, it's not fair. So that's something that gets a little emotional. But definitely, if a question of giving the money to the nizik, or giving it to the repair shop, the nizik could say, give me the money, and that's what I want to do with it. A tricky question, we have this from Bochum learning the yeshiva, they bought an appliance here in America, they went there to learn, and in the dira someone broke it, and typically it's more expensive in Eretz Yisrael. What do you pay? The value of a used item, but now it's used, a used item in America, or where the damage was done in Eretz Yisrael. So all the poskim agree, based on the Gemara and Erechin in a different context, of Chav Dalid, Linyan Hegdish, Ein Lecha Ela Makoimai Ushaitai. Basically, all of Torah is decided of where the Avla was done. Avla, the Hegdish, whatever it may be. But where was the Hezek done? Eretz Yisrael. How much is a used microwave worth in Eretz Yisrael? It's more than America? Fine. But Lamais, you damaged it in Eretz Yisrael. That's the damage. The damage sustained was the value of a microwave in Eretz Yisrael. And this is really highlighted by an interesting Panama Erois, Chelik Beis, Kuf Chavtes, where someone damaged someone's esrig. Now, the esrig, of course, per pound is less than $1 probably. But, in some places, you could sell a good esrig and make a lot of money. Some places, they're not into hit the mitzvah. Esrig is, $50, not more. But in some place you get from nice esrig $300, $400 for a beautiful esrig. So they asked the Panamiras, in this city, Punk, there are spenders, and they'll spend good money on esrig. But in another city, they don't. The maximum is $50. So the Panamiras, where'd you do the damage? In this city, people are willing to spend that money for it. That's the value of an esrig. So basically, the point is, even though you bought it at a lower cost, but if the damage is in Eretz Yisrael, you go where the damage was, and that's the fair estimation of the value. And the emes is, it's really, this leads to the next question. I hear it all the time, and again, it's very emotional until you think. Imagine someone's in a bad mood, and he wants to get even with someone, and he sees that someone just got a very expensive gift, and with a little nakam, of course, he breaks the item. And the mitzvah says, what are you doing? So, pay me. No, you didn't pay a penny for it. You didn't lose anything. There's no demei chisaron. No. So that's a good joke, but that's not the chiyuv to pay, demei chisaron, not like the money you paid. It's the depreciation. Now, this item was worth whatever it's worth. The fact that I got it for free has no bearing on your ma'aseh hezek. In other words, it's not demei chisaron. It's depreciation. Now, typically, chesar and depreciation might be the same. Imagine this. Someone bought a 3-for-2 sale, and someone damaged one of them. And the mazik says, I have Ruach HaKodesh. The one I damaged was the third one for free. But who cares? You got to pay. So even if you got it for free, people say, he got it half price, how much do I pay him? What he paid is immaterial. You pay the value of the item. So that's why all these cases, we're looking at the depreciation of where it is and what it's worth to the nizik. Our question about the mayonnaise, that he broke it in the store, and the wholesale is, let's say, $150, I'm just picking numbers, and $3 is retail. So this, the mazik is a shtickle alam, then he might have the following argument. Reb Nizik, Mr. Storekeeper, how much did you pay for the mayonnaise? $150. Why should I pay $3? Because you could have sold it and made $3. You could have sold it, in halacha is called meniyas revach, or the big sugi of Batal Kisha Chaveroi. You could have made money, but you didn't. So I'm a grama. So let me suffice with $150. That's a lamdasha argument, but incorrect. Because the truth is that here we apply ein lech al mekayim b'shaitei. In a store, a typical store, mayonnaise goes from $3 till $3.50, right? So this store is charging $3, but that's the typical price of mayonnaise. So although I saw one of the Heintige Paiskim say you pay wholesale price, but all other Paiskim are convinced that the value of mayonnaise is $3. Now, they do say, let's say that some stores charge $3 and $3.25 and $3.50, and your mazel, you damage the store that charges $3.50. So you could say, no, we go bus roiv, maybe make a compromise. But let's say $3, which is a fair price, that's the typical price. So then the mazik has to pay the $3 because that's the value of mayonnaise in a store. The fact that I got it wholesale is none of your business. It's not because I could have made money, because the cheftza of mayonnaise is worth $3 in the store. Now, to contrast that, if the mazik damaged the same jar of mayonnaise in the wholesaler's warehouse, then it's taka $150 because that's the value. Now, let's say he damaged in the groceries warehouse the same mayonnaise. So maybe it becomes $3 worth when it gets to the store. Maybe the warehouse is different, but it's not likely because the truth is that mayonnaise in this business is $3. But definitely in the store, there's no doubt about it, you pay the retail price. That's why our other question about the esrig, the person damaged the esrig, and again, even if he's an aynis, but adam mud la'olam, and I'm just picking number. Let's say the soicha pays $50 for one in a box of esrogim, and he could make much more. So there's no doubt about it. He cannot just pay the wholesale and goodbye. That's wrong. We saw that the Panameirais, mamish a case of an esrig. Now here you have to figure out. So what does he have to pay? So the soichim, they have a way of figuring out what price depending on how excited the keach is and how much money he has. So then the prices start to fluctuate, significantly. But at least the price of a good esrig is what he has to pay. You can't just suffice with wholesale. Avada, that's not, included. Of course, we have to add, there's a famous Chiddush of Maram Mintz in Kuf Yud Gimel, a celebrated Chiddush, where he said if you damage someone's esrig, all you pay is for a kosher esrig. He based it on a Gemara when someone damaged a carbon, so he could pay just the price of a carbon oif, because you could have patted yourself with a carbon oif. So he held an esrig has the mitzvah value, and a kosher esrig could replace even a gorgeous esrig. But the Chacham Tzvi in Kuf Chaf says it's a shkoga, it's not true. An esrig has value, a carbon has no value. It's a carbon, you yaitz up, but you can't sell a carbon. So therefore, a carbon oif, carbon behema, it's all the same. But avada, we don't go with the marmins even as a sniff, so you lose you damage the esrig, you pay the value of an esrig. Our original question was someone scratched the car or slight damage in a car. So obviously, if it's a new car, then that's something that's oimidless the tikkun. The question is, if it's not a new car and the person already has a scratch and a dent, but the nizik thinks, listen, I'm getting a free repair, why not take advantage? He didn't have to pay. So here you have to be careful, and I want to explain. Because the truth is that even though he could fix the car, but you didn't fix it till now, what's the pshat? The teretz is, but when you scratch the car, damage the car, it's not worth it. It's not oimid l'sakin. So why should you mechayev someone else to pay? Now, the word scratching and denting in a car, especially in our the world we live in, is a very emotional concept. I once said, and I didn't mean to be funny, in Christian, there's some people, we live in a world, not the Yiddish Welt, but some people, their car is worth more than the money and their lives. If you scratch a non-Jew's car, be careful. It's mamash, they can get all excited. This is mamash den neshama. Very heavy emphasis is placed on the appearance of a car. By you, that shouldn't be like that. We have a car, it gets us places. Okay, someone, smashes the car, dents the car, and it has to be fixed. Halavai, I say that people will be more mavata when it comes to these little scratches and dents. I've heard stories that a mamash, a himmel geschrein is people who machayev others to pay big money because they wanted this to fix, even though it didn't at all affect the performance of the car. I would say, hope I'm right, it's a big schooler, people like that word, it's a big school to be mavata and not be machayev to pay a scratch or a dent that's like ma'alev or ma'arid in the performance of the car. Now, who am I to say that? I'm just telling you that it makes sense. You're mechayev to pay. But one thing I will say, and this l'chayr, I saw all the Heintige Poskim agree. If there's a scratch or dent in the car that is not typically oimid l'sakin, people don't fix it. And varai, you have already a dent and a scratch like that. So then, even though there is a demei tikkun, you could bring it into the body shop. He'll do anything. You pay him, he'll do anything. So it's shaykh to repair it, and there is a demei tikkun. But if you don't do it, so that means there's no depreciation. So then you can't be mechayev the other person to pay. You'll say, but the may tikkun. But the problem is, in this case, there's no hezek. If there's no depreciation, because this is a small scratch in an old car, and ain't dent halal dent, you have enough dents as it is, so there's no depreciation. If there's no mazik, then there's no demei tikkun. Demei tikkun is not independent chiyuv. If there's a hezek, there's a demei tikkun. So again, you have to be careful when to apply this. The nizik has, takes one stance, the mazik, but halavai yidin would work together. That's something that makes no depreciation in the value of the car. There's no chiyuv to pay. Imagine someone scratched someone else's cell phone. So of course you probably could find the store that's going to fix it and then paint it up. But things that we don't fix, the Chazon Ish writes beferish, things that are not oimid l'sakein or cost more than the whole thing is worth, and you can't be mechayev mei tikkun. Person could do a scratch and it comes out costing a hain rav. Someone scratched, I'll give you another mashal. This is also someone scratched someone's table. So, it's the table has not been affected. You can find a company that will fix it and then pal it, but it comes out a hain rav and basically just, overlook it. If there's no real depreciation, then there's no chiyuv of tikkun. A very beautiful shayla, because mamish and afkamin of our original question is someone did big damage someone else's car or house, whatever it is, and we know exactly how much the cost is. But the mazik says, Reb Nizik, you have insurance. You will get all the loss from insurance. You probably get more. So go to insurance and leave me alone. So the emes is, if you hold that the chiyuv is only the mei chisaron, and the nizik will be able to collect the mei chisaron, so maybe the mazik has a taina. But since, as we said, the chiyuv is not the mei chisaron, it's either depreciation or the mei tikkun, so what does your taina have to do with my insurance? You were damaged, there's a chiyuv to pay. What I invested in my insurance, that's my investment. It has nothing to do with you. And that's why the earlier poskim, there are Sameach and Schira Zayin, Marsham and Dalet Zayin, the Bachanan and Ksubis, Reishut Zayin, and others all say, even though insurance will fully cover the damages, that's not a tur on the mazik. Mazik has to pay the Demei Tikkun or the Demei Pchas, and what I get to my insurance is my investment. And that's why the taina in itself is incorrect. The only reason why Lamaisa today, a person could often say this, is for a logistical problem. Because if you collect from the mazik, that may tikkun, and he pays, then you can't go back to insurance and collect damages if you got already paid. That's part of the law, that you can't double dip. You can't claim from mazik and insurance. They will ask you. And of course, he's not a lie or cheat, that's certain. So, even though in theory you could mechayiv the mazik, but then you can't go to the insurance. So then, Seichel Hayosh says, so why are you mechayiv you to pay and let the insurance company off the hook? Fakir, it's a Geisha company, let them pay what they have to pay. Your premium goes up. That we spoke about, and we spoke about insurance. So you can make a deal with the mazik. I'm going to give you a choice. You pay the extra premium, you'll gain, and I'll gain all. I won't have to lose. So then you can work out a deal. But just to run behind that fact that there's no chesaron because insurance pays is connected to Torah. The mazik has to pay. It doesn't say in the Torah, the insurance has to pay. A fascinating shaila, a person damaged a window in a home or a maisid. Okay? That's interesting. This is something that is attributed to 3 different gedolim, and Kenzai, none of them said it. But anyhow, in the Chavetz Chaim Chayev Payolav, Amud Kuf Samachei, it's quoted from the Chavetz Chaim, if someone damages a window in a house, he might not have to pay. Because based on the Gemara that you shots up how much the depreciation was, if you have to sell a house in Borough Park today, so I don't tell you how much it goes for, but a sheina might pay it, right? Will they say no? Now you're not going to get a sheina might pay it because there's a broken window on the 3rd floor. So the $1 million plus value that you're getting is not affected by the broken window. So they say, the Chavetz Chaim said that you don't have to pay for the window because there's no depreciation in the home. In Rav Sternbach Sefer Chelik Daled, Amatav Samaches, he quotes either B'Shem Rab Chaim Briska or B'Yitzchak Chanan. But the point is, they're using depreciation in a very unusual way. You don't look at the window itself, look at the window versus the house. And undoubtedly, a house is not depreciated by one broken window. You'll sell the house for the same amount. However, the plea with this is that why do you look at the window as part of a house? Why do you look at the window as a broken window? And you call up any glass shop, they'll tell you what the repair is. And the Mei Tikkun is very clear. And that's why the Chazon Ish, again, doesn't quote what I just told you, but in Bavakam Vav Gimel, he says when the damage is just part of a house, you pay for the damage of the house. What it is, not versus the whole house. You pay the Mei Tikkun on the window, on the wall. Now, I've heard there's some number of Dayanim that probably, if they're quoting this Chiddush in the name of either the Chavetz Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Briska, or B'Yitzchak Chanan, then probably none of them said it. Because again, it's illogical. It's based on a technicality of a Gemara, Shaman Oisai, how much this arug is worth in a big field. But at the end of the day, there's a very distinct depreciation and the Mei Tikkun. So basically, it has to be understood that you look at the damage as a independent damage, and you pay the tikkun, the depreciation, but don't group it together with a big house. Someone had a shayla, he cracked a tile of either a wall or a floor, and this type of tile is discontinued. There's no way to replace with another tile. So the Nizik is saying, well, you have to put a whole new floor, a whole new wall with new tiles. Now, of course, they'll say that Mei Tikkun is a new floor, is X amount of money. But that's unreasonable, because that's not the depreciation. You can't claim the depreciation for a new floor. So you have to work out what the depreciation is as it is. And really the Chazon Ish, in the same shtickle, says in Beferish, if a person made deep holes in someone's chotzer, and the demei tikkun is more than the depreciation, then all agree you cannot charge the demei tikkun. It can't be unreasonable. For one time I have to put on a whole new floor. That's unreasonable and not chayiv. Ma'aseh Shai is a true story. I know the person that was involved. He owned a car that wasn't old, it was ancient. Literally 1974. Older than some people here. But it worked wonderfully. And the book value was $100. They didn't give more to that for that age, And someone damaged his headlights. And the repair was to replace it $150. So here, the demei tikkun is more than the value of the car. So the nizik said, I'm an elachiyid, trust me. For me, the car, it's worth everything. What are you going to give me? You're going to say $100? I want to fix it. So here we have a unique case where the demei tikkun is a reasonable amount. So why should, the Magen say, I should have exploded your car. I would be cheaper, $100. Now that I broke the headlights, $150. Okay, so you could have done that. But Lamaisa, there is a demei tikkun. And logic would dictate that, and this I think is also the Chayk HaMedina, that you have to pay tikkun and don't look at the bookmark of the car. The book value of the car, taka, is deceiving, because the Lamaisa for the person, it's a fully functional car. But that's an unusual case. Another question, someone tore a page of a sefer in a shul, or spilled some coffee on the sefer. So the truth is, if you tore a page of sefer, the first thing is you could tape it up. Come Scotch tape and fix it. That's what a mensch does. But beyond that, you have to know, is there depreciation, a little of a stain? So what I think always the right thing is, don't leave the scene of a hezek and just assume I'm potter. Why? I'll figure it out later. You might have to pay. But if there's no real depreciation, because in the shul safe is old as it, whatever the cheshvan is, so then you look at depreciation as perhaps a possible patur. But it's always kedai to speak to the gabbai, the one in charge, and tell him. And if he says, "No, don't worry," you might even say maybe it's meis machat malacha. If it's part of his learning, he's so excited about turning a page of a blot, he taught a page. So you have to know exactly the case. But there is a tzad to say that if there's no real depreciation, maybe there's no chiyuv. Question: someone was in a fancy hotel and he sees someone ordered a soda, and I don't know the price, but I heard it's mamash for a cup of soda with 4 ounces of soda, 4 ounces of ice cubes is $18. That's what I heard. And he decided to spill out the other fellow's soda. I'll pay you. I figured it out. For 2-liter soda cost this, I'll give you 50 cents, keep the change. He just spent $18 on a cup of soda, and you're going to give him 50 cents? But Lamaisa, that's the value of the soda. No. The teretz is very poshut. In a hotel, they charge $8 for a reason. There's the ambiance, there's the way it is, the elegance, whatever it is, and he paid for that. So this is an Eiluch HaMekoyim Shaitai, that now this soda is worth $18. To go tomorrow and give him 4 ounces of soda with ice cubes is no good. If you're very aggressive, run home, come back with 4 ounces of soda and 4 ounces of ice cube, put it in the same cup. No, that's taka restoring the damage. That's fine. But to pay him tomorrow or to bring him a bottle of soda tomorrow is wrong, because that's the value here is $18. I know they sell they have an event, the Siyam Hashas, they sell a Poland bottle of spring water for much more. So if you take someone's soda, take someone's water, but he pays 5 times the amount, I'll pay you tomorrow $1. You can't do that. You got that now in this place the value is much more. You have to pay the value in this exact area. A big sugya is you damage one of a set. Lamashal, you damage someone's glove, the other one is fine, but this glove, you can't wear one glove. You damage someone's shoes, earrings, the list goes on, one volume of a set. So the mazik says, how much did the shoes cost? $120? Okay, I'll give you $60. Then he said, what should I do with one shoe? I can't wear one shoe. So here, the mazik might even say, it's a hezek shein and nikah. And also the shoe was there. So the truth is, I tell people, you should go into 10 shoe stores and ask them how much one shoe costs. So they'll throw you out. Why are you wasting my time? If he has a sense of humor, he'll say, one shoe is $120 and the other one is free. They'll see it. But the truth is you don't sell one shoe. So maybe you look at a shoe as one unit. 2 shoes is 1 unit. So now, how much is one shoe value in the marketplace? Whatever it is, next to nothing. And that's why the Paiskim, and this is really based on a Divrei Go'ainim in Tzadik Vav Nun Ches, that was written probably 170 years ago, one of the Yonim and Sigid. So he spoke about someone that lost one of 2 earrings. Shaim God has more of a chiyuvim, but he basically says there's a concept of a set that the second one is not half of a set. The second one is a lone earring, a lone shoe. So basically, you have to realize that you don't look at a set and half. Imagine the cleaners calls you, I have good news and bad news. The good news, I have your jacket that I cleaned. The bad news, that the pants got destroyed in the machine. So I'll give you half the amount of the suit. I have a certain type of suit, a stripe, pinstriped. I can't wear a different pair of pants with this jacket. So it's like the almond is not half of the pair of the suit. So each thing has to use seichel. Now, of course, if you lose one volume of a set of seforim, or damage one volume of a set of seforim, so then the rest of the set doesn't go down in value. You could use each safe individually, but then again, part of the set, so it goes down a little more than one fraction, one part of a set. So a sefer that one volume was damaged is more than just the percentage of that sefer versus the set. But an earring, shoes, a suit, the gloves, where one is functionless, so obviously the value of the second item goes down drastically, and it is a hezdik that's nikah. Look at one shoe and tell me why you realize that it went down in value, because you can't wear one shoe. Where this becomes a little of a tricky issue, let's say someone damaged someone's key to a U-lock. Now, the U-lock is for bikes, whatever. You lock up a bicycle in Marshall, and I have in the yeshiva all the time. Someone damaged someone's key. So the keys were very, very minimal value. But that's the only key to the U-lock, and now we can't use the U-lock. And if the U-lock is locking his bike, he has to break it open, nachtetzu. Do you have to pay for the value of a U-lock or the key that I damaged? So this, we can understand that a key and a lock, that's the only key to the lock, and you damage the key, you damage the lock, because the lock is basically functionless. So some say, no, that's really like 2 parts, key and a lock, but it's more likely that it is, in fact, one set. We hear this a little easier if you damaged the lock of an apartment building, let's say, and you have to replace the lock. But now all the other keys are valueless. You have to pay for the keys. The keys that don't open the lock are valueless. So this, it seems more, the Paiskim are more noited to say that keys are part of a lock. If you damage the lock and the keys are functionless, so you damage the keys also. You can't use those keys. So then he has to replace the lock and also replace the keys, because now he damaged the keys of all the tenants. Okay, that's a little more easier to understand than fakert, but both of them make sense. A very challenging question, you damage something that has sentimental value, but nothing else. Someone has his great-grandfather's spoon that he used in the lager, which is to him is worth everything. No market value, no actual value, but to him it's very valuable. So he might say, "Livdi shavali," but how much is the value, the item worth? So the Memes, according to the Nesiv, is that it's all about market value. He's avada pata, because there is no market value. But then again, even like us, that we go, that the question is a value, how much value is there to sentimental value? So let me tell you, if you damage someone's passport, or his driver's license, or his wedding album, which you can't sell a passport. I mean, you can't sell your wedding album to someone else. That has a value. Because every person has a passport, and every person has a license, and every person has a wedding album. So the fact that you won't buy my wedding album, that's true, but Lamaisu wedding albums, and passports, and licenses all have a value. So that's considered damaging something of intrinsic value. The fact that you can't use mine does not take away from the value. That's like a used shirt. But sentimental value, the Paiskim say, has no value at all. It's just to this person because of a special chavivas. And basically the Paiskim seem to be noted that there is no chiyuv to pay if there's no market value, because no one buys sentimental value items because it's only for me. So the chiluk is something that is intrinsically valuable just only to me, or something that's not valuable. I'm not saying sentimental value is a mishagas. No, it's not. But it's not something of value. B'yesa biur, b'yesa gishmak, something that's antique, a collector's item. You have a chesima of a Gadol Yisrael, a bech of a Gadol Yisrael. They all have market value. That's much easier to understand. But sentimental value that really have no value to anybody else but to the person, the poskim seem to feel is not really something you can mechayev on. Now, regarding the payment of tsar, as tsar, that's subjective because you look at the person's tsar and he has tsar. But this is a question: how much is the value, the item worth? The item is worth nothing in the market, and therefore there's no chiyuv. And last but not least, let me give you food for thought. How would it be shaykh that a person damages something that has a market value of $10,000, and he might argue that he gets away scot-free? So let me tell you a story. I don't know if it ever happened, but it's quoted in all the seforim. Someone owned 2 of the last remaining stamps in the world. 2 stamps, and that was it. A very precious commodity, a very precious collector's item, and each one was valued at $10,000. And a mazik damaged one of the stamps. But because of that, now the last stamp went up in value, and now the last one stamp is worth $20,000. So in the Sefer Oil Yeshayim Bavakama on B'Tafai Ches, the Arletzi and the Chayshemish B'Simon Yud Aleph has also this discussion. They quote Rab Chaim officially as saying maybe the mag doesn't have to pay because there's no chisaron. He went from $20,000 2 stamps, $20,000 and 1 stamp. Maybe it's even easier to watch 1 stamp than 2 stamps. But of course, this is not convincing. Because had it been demei chesaron, you could say there's no chesaron. But if it's hezek, depreciation, you damaged $10,000. Va'oid, when b'shas you damaged it, the price didn't change till later. So there's a chalois chiyuv to pay. What are you telling me? What happens later? Va'oid, and Chaim said this, if he ever said the first stamp, but let's say when the first stamp was damaged, second one went up, and now it's $1,995. 5 short of compensating the original stamp. So once it's not a full compensation, l'chulam we have to pay. But the truth is, the whole question is based on the yisayid to make chisaron. But once it's made hezek, avadi has to pay. I got to talk to you all.
Shem irgendwie like to be as a character of Smith for today's share. There's a Shem after Mincha of Smith to say the Sikkim. Kanani ben Akash Shem Ratzaga Shbokal Zakis is Israel Zikr Hebron Taramit Shanema and Chofetz and Sidko Yagdol Teriyah.